Good morning, Nigeria. Now, let's start the show with three headlines that, if you read them back to back, feel less like news and more like the setup for a Nigerian joke. So let's check it out. Headline 1. The presidential villa, Aso Rock, is preparing to disconnect from the national grid by March and switch fully to solar power. Headline 2. The Minister of Power was once spotted charging his phone with a power bank at an event. And headline 3, government says power sector funding is increasing. Now pause there. Because if the Aso Rock is leaving the national grid, that means the national grid has been ghosted by the people who are supposed to fix it. Imagine the irony. Now, the house that runs the country has decided, you know what, this NEPA relationship is toxic. So there's a breakup, solar panels, battery storage, new life. According to officials, the villa's solar system was installed towards the end of 2025 and is expected to be completely taken over by March 2026, which means the most important resident in Nigeria has basically done what millions of Nigerians have been doing for years. Plan B. Generator, inverter, solar, anything except the grid. So the question becomes, if the grid cannot power Aso Rock, what exactly is it powering? And look, let's be honest. Nigerians already know the answer to this question. The national grid is like that unreliable friend who promises to show up at your birthday. He sends, on my way. You dress up, you wait, and suddenly, poof, grid collapse. That's it. Now, but here's where the story gets even more Nigerian. Remember that viral moment when the Minister of Power was seen charging his phone with a power bank? Now, some people mocked it, but maybe we misunderstood the man. Maybe it wasn't even irony. Maybe it was policy direction. Think about it. The villa has solar, the minister has a power bank, and the rest of us have generators that sound like small aircraft taking off at 2 a.m. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what economists call distributed energy policy. Everyone bring your own electricity to the table. But wait. Because the story doesn't stop inside Nigeria. I mean, recently, a presidential aide, Daniel Bwala, went on head-to-head on Al Jazeera to defend government's record in a heated interview that quickly went viral. The host pressed him on governance, the economy, security, and the usual tough questions. And while all that was happening, somewhere in the background, Nigeria's national grid was probably doing its usual cameo appearance: blackout. Because the truth is, Nigeria's electricity crisis is one of the most powerful metaphors for governance in this country. We're a nation sitting on gas, sunshine, and more than 200 million people, yet we are still negotiating with darkness. Now, here's the twist. During the 2023 campaign season, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while campaigning then, made a very bold promise. He said if he cannot provide constant electricity during his first term, then Nigerians should not vote for him for his second term. Now, that is a remarkable political statement. In fact, it might be one of the clearest performance benchmarks any Nigerian president has ever set for himself. But it also raises a fascinating contradiction. Because while the government says it is investing more money into the power sector, the presidential villa is preparing to leave the grid entirely. So think about it. Africa's largest economy, running on extension cords and generators. And now the seat of power is going solar, which is brilliant, by the way. Renewable energy is the future, right? But it raises a philosophical question. If the seat of power leaves the power grid, who exactly is left holding the wire? Because leadership is not just about solving your own problem. It's about solving the system. You see, Nigerians don't actually mind innovation. We are masters of survival technology. Give us 1 week of blackout and we will invent generator sharing, inverter cooperatives, community solar, phone charging kiosks. But what Nigerians are asking is simple. If the villa can have uninterrupted solar power, why can't the country? Because the real headline isn't that Aso Rock is going off the grid. The real headline is this. After decades of promises to fix electricity, Nigeria's most powerful building has quietly decided to fix electricity for itself. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is not just an energy story. It's a governance story. Because when the leaders leave the grid, the people are left in the dark. Interesting. Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. My name is Chiwete Onyema. Of course, I'm not alone. I have Inam here with me who will be joining me right after the break. Welcome on board.
It's a very good morning from me and welcome to your Sunday edition of Breakfast Extra. As Chiwete said, my name is Inam Maso. Now on the program today, we begin in Ebonyi State, where we revisit the deadly community clash in Oso Eda. Eda, that has raised serious concerns about security, about justice, and the controversy surrounding government sanctions imposed after the attack. Then from there, in our second hour, attention turns to politics as the conversations around the 2027 elections continue to gather momentum, with new alliances and strategic moves emerging in Lagos. We examine what these realignments could mean for the political future of Nigeria, as well as the commercial capital. We break down the implications and what voters should be watching as political landscapes begin to shift. Well, they've been shifting for a while now. Also ahead, we take a closer look at the rising demand for cosmetic procedures such as, you heard it, Brazilian butt lifts and other aesthetic enhancements, with social media influence, celebrity culture, and beauty trends driving the conversation. What are the medical realities, the safety concerns, as well as the growing interest in cosmetic surgery, especially that BBL, across Africa as well as Nigeria? Stay tuned and find out. And of course, in the third hour, we turn back to politics as the People's Democratic Party faces renewed pressure ahead of the 2027 elections, with defections after defections and internal disputes making headlines. The courts calling for resolutions within the party. We'll discuss what this means for the PDP's unity and its future as a major opposition force. Also, on Wellness Extra, we mark World Kidney Day, focusing on the theme caring for people, protecting the planet, as we discuss kidney health, prevention, and why early awareness is critical. And of course, on Weekend Warrior today, we celebrate Nigerian excellence on the global stage as bodybuilding star Andrew Jacked makes headlines after winning big at the Arnold Classic, taking home an impressive $750,000 prize and bringing pride once again to the nation of Nigeria. Of course, all that and more comes after the break. Stay with us this morning. It's going to be a great ride. Let's go on a quick break. Or in fact, Chiwete, good morning. How are you?
Morning. How you doing?
I'm fine. Power?
Honestly, I just had to talk about it because I think when you listen or when you read Nigerian headlines, you're just wondering what is going on, because what is really happening? Yep. I mean, Aso Villa leaving the national grid, that's the end. Like, that is the end. Like, it's done. There's no point, because if they can't fill it, there's no way they can fix it.
I mean, it's a silent message that unfortunately our dear president, I mean, see, that's why you know that unfortunately, and I say it lightly, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Because if that's what's taking place, then why would you blame our good friend Boala for not being able? Because how do you defend that? How do you defend the bullion vans, you know? Because these are the things that we see, and then it becomes difficult to defend them. Our good friend Zekeri Idris made a comment and said, it's very difficult to defend the APC.
Of course
it's extremely difficult. So electricity, I mean, at this point, it's quite clear that he may not be getting those.
And I think we should just be more, and I just on a lighter note there, but I just think we should be more lenient with the Minister of Power, Adelabu. I mean, we saw him with Power Bank. So what that tells you that he himself is also...
It's a difficult thing to say.
He's feeling it as well. And it just tells you that I suspect that the issue of power in Nigeria is so much of benefit to some set of people that they'd rather die than change it. That's the way I see it. So it's everything we must do to not get it, to not make it work. Because we've had some competent people who have been ministers of power in the past, and they could not do anything about it. I mean, Fashola, we know what he did in Lagos. So why can't he perform in a ministry if he could do so much in the state, right? But he got there and he really couldn't do so much.
Yeah.
So it tells you that some people are benefiting from Nigeria being this way.
I mean,
they would do whatever.
Aso Rock is completely off grid.
Aso Rock has
That's a very big benefit.
Like, you know what, guys?
That's a very big benefit. No. Like you said, it internally it looks like they've communicated a message that says we've given up, so you guys are on your own.
Yes,
however you guys want to do it, whether you want to use a power bank, you want to use an inverter, to each his own. Ladies and gentlemen, again, good morning. I think we should go on a quick break, but when we do come back from the break, we take a look at the dailies. Let's go on that break.
All right, it's time for us to check out the dailies, of course, this Sunday morning. We're going to kickstart with the Sunday Telegraph. Now, the big headline here has to do with something we've been battling for years in Nigeria: insecurity. While security agents' risks persist, says retired police chief. Now, if you look at the left top corner, you see CBN orders 1 ATM per 7,500 payment cards per 2028. Now, if I tell you that I can't remember the last time I used an ATM machine, I can't remember. I think maybe it's going to almost a full year, or maybe almost 2 years now. I haven't used an ATM in a long while. I just go to the POS agent and they give me cash and that's it.
I mean, they're making money though, because even I cannot remember the way. I think the last time I went to an ATM machine was the time I opened my bank account, and then I needed to just make sure that it was working. But to go to the ATM, no.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It's been a very long time.
Anyway, CBN orders 1 ATM per 7,500 payment cards by 2028. Drops affidavit requirements for dormant account reactivation. Nigeria's food import bill rises by 265% to 7.65 trillion naira in 3 years, from 2.86 trillion naira in 2022 to 7.65 trillion naira in 2025, and this is by the NBS. There's another headline here, quite interesting. Wike's faction, upbeat, insists reconciliation on its terms. Elects 39 new executives in Kano. Ondo SEC rejects dissolution. No party prepared to challenge Tinubu, says ex-governor.
Wow.
Now, other headlines in the Sunday Telegraph: security beefed up ahead of Soludo's second-term inauguration. Nigeria lacks foreign policy objectives, says Professor Akinyemi. Appeal Court's ruling: our leadership still intact, says ADC. Fixes convention for April 14. And APC accuses opposition of misleading Nigerians on poverty rate report.
Oh, that's a deadly one. We had that conversation yesterday with that documentary, Declassified. So the fact that it's more than 140 million is crazy.
It's crazy.
So we are lying to ourselves. Wonderful.
Interesting.
From there, let's go to the Sunday Tribune. On the Sunday Tribune this morning, at the top left there, we've got why we are demanding payment of withheld salaries. That's the ASU president. Says the TET fund should stop throwing money away by funding centers of excellence. That's a very interesting one. You can find that on page 20. Right next to it, we've got bandits ambush, kill 20 security personnel, vigilantes, or a vigilance group member in Plateau. I think this, we can never say that the conversation around banditry, chiwete, and killings is getting redundant, because at the end of the day, lives are lost. But I think for the mere fact that every week there is a new report and a new finding about killings in Nigeria speaks an even greater message. Going back to the conversation that your monologue, actually, if you remember the conversation that was had on Al Jazeera with our good friend, there was a comment that was made there that the numbers that we are recording are numbers that are genocide numbers. The numbers, war numbers, actually, war numbers.
For a country that's not at war.
For a country that, yes, for a country that is not at war, the numbers that we are bringing in of deaths is as good as us going to war. But the problem is, again, and I say it all the time, who are we going to war with? Because Nigeria tends to negotiate with terrorists. It's a problem. But you see, let me close my mouth. Let's continue right there. Underneath the Tribune in red, we've got defection drama. The PDP government gets tough conditions to join the APC. That's a very interesting one, but let's move on from there. It says, may lose right to pick successor. Ruling party offers sole Senate ticket, leaves supporters in limbo. Right underneath, we've got ignore perpetrated dissolutions of Ogun, Ekiti, Ondo, Exos. Turaki-led PDP tells members. You can read that on page 27. And then on page 4, we've got the IGP applauds journalists, seeks stronger police-media relationship. Interesting. And then anxiety over brother Shaggy's whereabouts as police refute shooting report. I beg your pardon. And then at bottom there in blue, Chiwete, we've got Tinubu hasty in signing amended Electoral Act into law. And then in red, we've got our good man, economic hardship. Stop inciting Nigerians against Tinubu's administration. The APC cautions the ADC.
Okay, moving on to the next one. Sunday Punch. Why the major headline here says why Boko Haram, ISWAP are after military bases. Security sources raised the alarm over deadly attacks on army formations. My son crying on battlefield, says soldier's mom. Federal government orders strategy shift. Now, the top left corner of the Sunday Punch says Nigerians hit as Iran rains missiles on UAE. The question is, what is the government doing about evacuation of Nigerians in these countries, especially though Nigerians are situated in the Middle East? It's a very good question. We should be asking, how are they going to get them out of there and bring them back home?
That's a very unfortunate thing, actually. That one speaks to, I'll give you, after this.
Is that another on your own situation?
So you know what? No, it's not actually my own situation, but after the dailies, I'll give you, remind me, I'm going to give you a gist about that. But from a diplomacy standpoint, it's quite unfortunate that the Nigerian government has not released any statement. When this thing started, Chiwete, every embassy, and again, I say it from a fact standpoint, every embassy released correspondence for their people in a specific country. How do we get them out? The numbers to call, emergency detail, and all of that stuff. And for the mere fact, I think some would say, well, they did. But we've not seen any correspondence whatsoever.
There seems to be a problem with our global representation. I mean, it literally took Trump, claiming that, there's Christian genocides before our president decided, okay, let's not have ambassadors. And ever since then, there's still been a back and forth about them, getting to action and being deployed and all of that. So I'm just wondering, why is that at this particular time, when it comes to global representation for Nigeria, it's kind of shaky? I
mean, the ambassadors, we rolled the dice and we chose our ambassadors in Nigeria. Have they been deployed? Have they left? I think that's the first question. Have they left? Do we have heads of mission in these various countries? Because if we don't have them, they are also just trying to make sure that they survive what's going on over there, which is unfortunate.
Interesting. Now, moving on to the next headline, the Sunday Punch. This one is the top right corner. You see it there. NYSC delay traps thousands of poly graduates. Our lives are on hold, says HND holders. Reconciliation. Wike PDP governors camps hold talks on Monday. On bullying, police probe Edo school management after students' expulsion. Impatience behind high divorce rates, says octogenarian married for 53 years. Of course, she has all the criteria to give every marriage advice. 53 years in marriage,
not bad.
She's quite qualified. A Nigerian football mons as 1980 AFCON hero Nwosu dies. May he so rest in peace. I have not slept since kidnappers demanded 100 million naira for my brother, says Simba. I saw this video and it was quite terrifying, heartbreaking. I'm just close to getting tired of things like this. And it's just, what annoys me is the boldness we see with these so-called bandits. They keep making it obvious that, we're getting stronger and we don't, and this makes us ask the question, can our government really handle it? Is it beyond them? If that's the case, maybe they should come and own up to it. Because the boldness with this bandit is crazy. You've seen some of them on TikTok.
Very enabled.
Parading words of cash, bags of money. And this particular video just broke me, honestly. When I saw it, I was like, what is really going on? What is happening?
Again, the governments, and that's where you mentioned, like, Chiwete, I agree with you, where you said some of the statements that Donald Trump said. One thing that you'd always tend to find when you're watching American movies, whenever there's a ransom or a terrorist attack, what does the president tend to say? We don't negotiate with terrorists. And I think with us, again, if you watch that debate on the honest bunch, there was the same statement that was made there to say back in the day, if a Boko Haram terrorist was going to do something, they would cover themselves entirely and completely. You wouldn't see anything. But now there is just that freedom. When did we give terrorists freedom of expression? When did they earn that right?
It's sad. It's really, really sad. And to even to make this even worse, Gumi has been one person who has been speaking confidently, about this particular situation. And he says the government knows every bandit and every terrorist. They have the information.
But it was the U.S. that said we are putting a bar and freezing assets of government officials that are implicit in funding terrorism. So 6 and 9. 6 and 9, brother. Are you still on?
All right, so yeah, that's it. We're done with the Sunday part.
All right, from there we can move to Sunday Vanguard. Interesting one. Right at the top there, it says Makinde, Bola, Turaki, and others face tough options as Wike-backed PDP sets conditions to accept them. This is it's unfortunate and it's sad because you are basically seeing, in my own words, not in actual facts, that the crumbling of the PDP. It's very unfortunate. And then right next to it there, it says how ADC dislodged PDP to become main opposition in Senate. School bullying rocks Edo State. And then right underneath Vanguard there, it says terrorists kill 20 in Plateau ambush. Today's North has indices of human suffering worse than Ethiopia in a 1985 ex-UN system advisor. That's horrible. That is horrible.
That's bad.
That's horrible. And then underneath there, it says, our children are not alcoholics. PTA tackles NAFDAC. I think we're going to have that conversation later. And then no petrol, no food for Nigerians. Middle East warns surging oil prices. And then, of course, farmers worry over rising cost of fuel. And then in windfall, Nigeria earns more dollars as people reel under staggering costs of living. And then how higher energy and input costs could impact manufacturing, aviation, logistics, consumer goods companies. This is Mudwa Yusuf, an expert. And then the lady in pink there, Bemi, last name is yours to do, Chiwete. And then she talks about the fashion roundtable. I mean, what she's wearing is not very fashionable, but it's all right. Everybody has freedom of expression, just like the terrorists. Nigeria 141 others injured as the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad hit by missiles. And then, of course, at the bottom there, Henry Nwosu, 1980 AFCON's youngest winner, dies after an illness. Again, may his soul rest in peace. And then right at the bottom, military terrorists in tit for tat. Army-based attacks, top officers killed, ISWAP commander eliminated. And then fear grips Southwest farmers, travelers, and other targeted.
All right, so there you have it. We're done with the dailies. We're going to go on a quick break, but when we return, there's more. Stay with us. Welcome back to Breakfast Extra. It's time for our big report. Now, we begin this morning in Ebonyi State, where a deadly attack in Oso-Eda local government area has once again drawn attention to long-standing boundary tensions in the region. Now, reports say gunmen stormed the Okporojo farming settlement, killing several residents, beheading some victims, burning houses, and forcing many families to flee their homes. Notes that this clash occurred on January 29, 2026. Now, the violence is believed to be connected to an ongoing boundary dispute between communities in Ebonyi State and neighboring Cross River State.
Oh, this conflict has flared repeatedly over land ownership and farming rights. Following the incident in Ebonyi State, government announced a series of security measures and sanctions targeting some and many of the community stakeholders, saying the steps are necessary to restore order and to prevent further violence. But the move somehow has also generated debate, with some observers questioning whether punitive measures alone can resolve such a deeply rooted and gruesome conflict. So this morning we are asking the hard and very simple question, actually. How did this crisis escalate to this point? And what will it take to secure lasting peace?
Now, to help us understand the situation more clearly, we're joined by Maduka Amadi, who's the Vice Chairman of Masiri Town Union. Mr. Maduka, thank you so much for joining us on Breakfast Extra.
Thank you, my brother. Good morning.
Help us understand the origins of this conflict. What exactly is at the heart of the Ebonyi Cross River boundary crisis?
For point of corrections, okay. It's not Ebonyi versus Cross River. These two local governments are within the Ebonyi State.
Are within Ebonyi State?
Ebonyi State, yeah. It's just a neighboring town. I am from Amasiri in Afibo local government, and the community that is having this issue with our community is Eda, in Eda local government. We are just brothers.
Your brothers.
We have the same culture, we are interrelated, we are married, we have the same lineage. We are just brothers. But there has been an age-long land dispute between the people of Eda and the people of Amasiri. And I think a lot of attempts has been made by the government to find a lasting solution to the issue. There have been a white papers, 2002. The white paper also was reversed and printed a new one on 2023, where Engineer David Umahi, the present Minister of Work, was the then governor of Ebonyi State. But it's so appalling that I don't know why the government has failed to implement the content of that peace resolution. And I think it is what has been fueling this crisis. But this morning, I have come with a very heavy heart because of the looming humanitarian crisis that has bedevilled my community, Amasri. If you permit me, last night I itemized some of them. I can read through my gadgets. This crisis has caused a lot of hunger and starvation, occasioned by the most severe and the longest curfew that has been ever imposed. This is over 6 weeks now. No movement. Everywhere shut down. Schools closed, hospitals closed, markets closed. Nobody, no movement. It's military-led siege. 20 hours curfew. And within the 4 hours, the military do not allow anybody to go anywhere. Human beings are dying on a daily basis. Pregnant women are dying. They could not have accessed the health facility. The vulnerable and senior citizens, they are dying because they are vulnerable to attacks as a result of disease according to their age. No health facility is open for over 6 weeks, as I'm talking to you. It's so appalling. It's so appalling. That's why we keep crying and saying, government, if you have found some youth culprit at the dastard house that took place on the 29th day of January 2026, Amasri unequivocally said, we support government-launched independent investigations. That these blanket sanctionings, where a pregnant woman could not access the health facility, she lost her baby. About 3 or 4 of them has lost their baby. The other one wanted to go to hospital, and the military say, oh, go back. On the same spot she delivered.
Oh, no.
And Blaker could not allow the baby to survive. My brother, we have all of them and evidences, and we keep crying to government. So is this the best way to settle crisis in our modern society? So that is the reason why I've come here. So, Amasri has been locked for over 6 weeks now. During the first 5 weeks, it was a 20-hour curfew. Soldiers were running rampant and arresting any man on sight, and most able-bodied men left the town, leaving only frail women and children and older women. No food or medicine were allowed in, and all the shops and markets are closed. People are literally dying of starvation, as no one is allowed to go to a farm. Hospitals and medical centers remain closed. People are held prisoners, supposedly for their safety, but the government has refused to provide relief materials, and government has also blocked relief materials from accessing the town. Many people have died due to lack of medical attention. Like I said before, almost 5 families who have, the records are there. The other one gave birth, the child died, the mother survived. The other one gave birth, the mother died, and the child survived. So all the same thing, schools have remained closed for over 6 weeks. Like I told you earlier, the teachers, the public schools in Amasri, even private, they have been transferred to the neighboring communities. WAEC, many students in this academic season, SS3, did not register for WAEC. Before, and pupils in the common entrance they just took the last week of February, our community did not participate. Students may lose 1 full year as a result of this siege. There are also just some of the immediate impact of collective punishment imposed on Amasri community for a crime the government say was committed by the youth. And Amasri people, we said, government, there is no sense society will be sponsoring some individual to go and kill and behead. Okay,
Mr. Maduka, sorry if I can just cut you on that, because this is the question I was going to go to. Can you give us, or what do we know so far about how the violence unfolded?
Amasri is an organized society, community. There is a body called Esa Amasri Ruling Council. They have the power to make laws that governs the community. Last 2 years, the Esa Amasri made a law. They enacted the law, say every burial will be holding at the last week of every month, between 25th of every month and the 31st. Whether there are 50 burials, if you don't do your own within this space for a period, you will carry over to the next month. So what kept us flabbergasted was on the 29th day when this incident happened, there were over 50 burials in Amasri. So when do we plan such an attack? And we are still saying government launch independent investigations. This blanket sanctioning is terrible. This is what we are crying. We are not violent community. We are very good people. We are hospitable. We have a lot of mineral resources. We have companies. We have a lot of people from Cross River, even from Ogoja, who reside in Amasri. All of them are suffering this crisis with us.
So what happens is normally for, when you have communities like this, you want to wonder what your leaders are doing, probably your local government chairman or the leaders of this community. Is there any information from the leaders as to the fact that perhaps they've had a conversation with government? Have they communicated that to people of Amasri?
Yes, the government has invited the few leaders, because almost all our leaders, they are in detention. We have 2 traditional rulers presently. We have 3 autonomous communities. But one, we lost their traditional ruler 2 years ago, but I've never been able to elect a new one. The 2 traditional rulers presently, on the 30th day of January, at the order of the governor, the military invaded their home in the middle of the night.
Invaded whose home?
Bundled them like common criminals.
Whose home, sir?
Our traditional rulers. Bundled them like common criminals. They are still in the prison. Even our development center coordinator, because we have 64 development centers in Ebonyi State. These development centers stand like a mini local government. Amasri is one of the development centers. Without investigation, governor has also imposed sanction and asked the Ebonyi State House of Assembly to delist Amasri as if we are no longer part of the state. Our development center coordinator was also arrested in the Senate alongside with our traditional ruler. 3 of them, including 32 other men, which the military, under torture, arrested them. They are all in the prisons. And we keep crying, say, government, we are still pleading. The few ones that made the governor gave the condition that those beheaded heads must be returned. And we are still saying, as a community, there was never a platform where Amasri stood together and decide for someone to go and kill. That is what we are appealing the governor. Governor, please, tamper justice with mercy. Tamper justice with mercy. Because all these adolescents and vulnerable children dying, do they know anything about this crime? Do they know when this land crisis started? Several attempts have been made. Meetings have been held for few leaders, because most of us will run away for our safety. Under 29, I was burying my uncle, the only surviving man in my paternal family. Michael Amade. I was also burying an erudite scholar, Barrister Francis Ongo, on the same 29. So this attack came as a surprise to all of us. We were so busy with burials. And that's why we say, government, it will be better in a civilized society. Conduct independent investigation. Government has all the gadgets. They have all the security apparatus to fish out perpetrators. We support it. I must entirely support. Let government launch an independent investigation and fish out the perpetrators. That is capital punishment. It has crippled our community. I want to remind you that we have almost a 20-something quarry companies mining. Upon shutting down all the health facilities, closing down schools, the quarry site is steady. Even as we talk, they are cutting away materials. You understand? That's why we begin to look at these things. Say, is government complicit about the whole thing?
I'd like to ask. Of course, authorities in Ebonyi announced that sanctions and security measures following the attack. Before we get into that, I'd like for you to just maybe give me an understanding of, number one, what these sanctions involved. Number two, in the 6 weeks that you guys have been under perhaps a lockdown, have there been any attacks?
Any attacks?
In the period of the sanctions?
No attack. No attack. It's only the military. You know, can you fight the military with an empty hand?
So then it's safe to say that though it might be having an effect on the economy, it has to a certain extent de-escalated the fights and
I understand. You know, the Ebonyi State government, when I heard governor the other day saying that the reason for imposing all these sanctions is to avert reprisal attacks. And we are saying...
So has it done that?
No, we are saying there is no need for a reprisal attack. This incident started early 2025. There has been this attack, this other group A will attack, group B will attack, counter-attack, adopting people in their farmlands. It has been the order of the day. 20th January 2025, Duken Dukwe Ruling Council went to carry out a cleanup exercise in one of their public schools known as Akanto Primary School. That school was built in the year 1981. This is one of the root causes of this problem. The other part of it are now laying claim that the land belongs to them.
All right, Mr. Madi, we understand your grievance as regards what's happening in your community.
So what I'm saying is that there was no need for a reprisal attack.
All right, we're going to continue this conversation, but we need to go on a quick break. When we return, the conversation continues. And thanks for staying with us. We're still having the big report here, having a conversation as regards what's happening in Amasri community. We still have Mr. Madi here with us, and we're having a conversation as regards what's happening. He has talked. You talked to us about the fact that there's a sanction there, but also, can you confirm if there has been any invitation by the government to anybody to ask questions as regards this crisis?
You mean
from the government? Yes, within the community, within the Amasri community.
Yes. I think I've said it earlier. Our people, our kinsmen, mostly the elderly ones that could not evade that could not run away as a result of their age, that is from octogenarians.
Yeah.
Most of them has attended meeting with the governor, I think 2 or 3 times. When they went there for the meeting, they keep having this bottleneck that government will say, you must go and return those heads. And they keep saying, we have no heads. We have no knowledge about heads. We have no knowledge. We are vulnerable people. You have every power to make investigations and bring these perpetrators to book. That's what they are pleading with the governor. But they keep using the head, as an habit that what they will not, if they fail to provide the head, that the curfew will continue.
But do you think perhaps it's time for you, if the government is insisting on that, do you think it's time people in Amasri community start to perhaps maybe do their own personal investigation as to find out who the people who actually carried out this attack within your community?
Just like I told you that our community is an organized community.
And the more reason you should probably know.
Had it been the governor gave us the room, when the incident took place on the 29th, had it been he gave us the room, say, let Amasri meet and come and tell me the truth, we would have had what is called serious elderly and young people meeting. We know how we do our thing. We would have had a meeting, but this time around, everybody is scattered all over the nations. You understand? It will be difficult to meet now, unless if the government can withdraw this curfew. Then we went back home. Then we went to the drawing board. Like I told you, our community will don't support evil. We can't be harboring miscreants.
So could it be that, like you have just said, the curfew is there, the sanctions are there, primarily because at this current present, Amasri and any other players in between don't know who committed these crimes. So could it be that the government has put these sanctions and these curfews in play up until their own investigations are also complete, to first of all avoid a repeat of the attack or a retaliation? Because if it is not you, then it means somebody or the perpetrators are still out there.
That's what we are saying. There is no society that is free from miscreants. Even in Lagos State here, we have a lot of miscreants along the streets. So if something happened in Ikeja here, will government come and arrest everybody in Ikeja?
But could it be, sir? You're not answering my question. Could it be that these sanctions are there for that sole purpose? I see it right now because we're looking at it from the state for a point of negativity. Yeah. Yes, I do understand that from an economic standpoint, schools are closed, children are sitting at home, businesses are suffering and all of that. But could it be that the government has instituted these sanctions for the safety and the security of the people?
That's what I told you, that I do not think government did it because of reprisal attacks.
Why do you think they did it?
The case has been there. On the 2nd day of December 2025, 4 persons were adopted. They went to harvest rice. There was no need. We have been following government with patience. 4 persons from Amasri, 2 women and 2 men, they were shot dead. People that went to trace them, they saw where they dragged them along the bushes and saw liters of blood. We reported to government. The reports are there at the police divisional airport. There was no reprisal attack. So this crisis has been long. It has been attack and counter-attack. And we are hoping, because on the first week of December, to tell you that Amasri was not prepared for trouble. We signed a peace accord. I represented the youth of Amasri. There was a peace agreement. Government initiated it. Actually, we were the one who gave them a reminder that since the latest peace committee report of 2023, government, what is holding you from implementing it? And these 2 traditional rulers who are in prison, they invited the other traditional ruler from Eda. And we met at the office of the Commissioner for Border Peace. On the 5th of December, we signed the peace agreement that we have accepted the conditions that contains in the peace accord of 2023 peace agreement, that we are accepting that government to come and delineate where there be a boundary so that party A will not cross to the portion of party B will not cross. But we are saying, how did issue our forefathers, They own the land. They gave it to this set of people. And they have overstayed as diplomatic citizens. I will not support chasing them away because they have overstayed. They have schools over there. They have development center over there. But what we are saying is further annexation of this land. You keep using gun to pursue people from their farmland and claim it by force. And that's why we say, government, come in, delineate boundary and build a police post. That is the content of that peace agreement.
Could it be that perhaps it's a case of change in government? Because in 2023, David Umahi was the governor of Ebonyi State. Now, Nwifuru is the governor of Ebonyi State. Do you think perhaps that change is what is delaying the implementation of that agreement?
No, I don't believe, because some school of thought says these elder people, they have this expansionism idea of keep expanding, keep annexing in people's land. And each time government wants to implement that report, because the elder is a full local government, you can see, Amasri is just an autonomous community. Each time government wants to sit and implement that recommendation, some of their big men will now went and sit on the government, that if you do this, it will threaten your vote. We have heard it. And government, you know, politicians, because they don't want to lose their vote, they will remove their hand. We suspect that is what is delaying the implementation. And our people strongly believe that if that peace committee recommendation is implemented, it's a panacea that will bring a lasting peace. Because they already made it say, government, we have found out that this land belongs to Amasri people, but these people have overstayed. They will stay, but give them a perpetual boundary so that they don't keep further annexing on Amasri land. That is the content of the peace committee report. So I don't believe in a change of administration. It doesn't take government anything to implement it. Mobilize the tractors and the bulldozers. Let them go and create a way. Either they do it as a channel or create a main road. You understand? And that's what we are praying. We say any day government implement it and create a road, we will use stone doors and make it a road that will, even in the next generation, our children will still know that this is where government says is a boundary between Amasra and Edda.
Has there been any communication sent to your representative in the State House of Assembly in Ebonyi State?
We have appealed to our Federal House of Rep member, Right Honorable Ude Gariwe, who represents Afikpo and Edda Federal Constituency. We have also appealed to Right Honorable Kingsley Ikoro from Oziza, who is representing our state constituency in the Ebonyi State House of Assembly. You know the system that operates.
Have they responded to the...
He was even among the people that passed the vote and delisted our development center. We are operating the system that whatever the executive says, it remains the final.
It's quite an interesting situation that we're seeing right here. But I guess at the end of the day, seeing that the elections are forthcoming, maybe they would revisit this situation and maybe also try as much as possible to do the bidding of the people of Amasri. But nonetheless, it looks from your own account, it looks like it's quite a very, very terrible situation we're having there. People having to stay at home for weeks, and what even bothers me the most is the situation with the pregnant women not having access.
Of course, I refute and I dispute that completely, because I do agree that when you are putting in these sanctions and you are putting lockdowns in place, there has to be a measure that supports cases and scenarios of emergency. But again, like I said, I know that naturally, generally speaking, we aren't necessarily friends of the government per se. But again, like I said, I do believe that to a certain degree, there is a bit of an advantage to the restrictions for now, because I think right now we're playing in a pool where we don't necessarily know what is happening. We know for a fact, Chiwete, that boundary conflict in Nigeria is not a new thing. It's not a new thing. But I think my question to you now, sir, is in terms of support, especially to the families that lost the pregnancy, the women that lost their children, or the children that lost their mothers, has any support been given to the affected individuals?
That is the most annoying part of it. We have been crying that government should bring relief materials for the few ones that are left at home to save them. No way. We have cried. Like I read earlier in my report that even the relief material, we bought food because people were dying of hunger. Could you imagine staying indoors for 1 week, talk most of over 6 weeks? Where did you store the food? Where did you go and say? You can't go out. The brutality is much. The military on site, if they just see you, it is so unfortunate. Even the 32 person in detention, one young man, Donald Okachi, he's a minor. The young man was born in February 2000. Is it up to 18 years now? It's not up to 18 years. But they have brutalized this young man, and 2009. They have brutalized him and accept him to accept that he's up to 18 years. He's still in the prison there.
Born in 2000?
He was born in early 2000.
If it's 2000,
no, it's not 2000, 2010. 2010.
2010. Okay.
2010.
All right, we must thank you, Mr. Mahdi, for coming through to, of course, paint a picture of what is happening in Amasiri, and we really hope that in no time the government will do what they need to do and at least allow people start to live their lives in Amasiri.
I think they deserve it.
So thank you, my brother.
All right, we're going on a quick break. When we return, there's more. It's time for our big story. Now, cosmetic surgery is becoming increasingly popular across many parts of the world. Nigeria is no exception. Procedures like Brazilian butt lifts, aka BBL, liposuction, Botox, and facial rejuvenation are now widely discussed on social media and increasingly sought after by young people looking to enhance their physical appearance.
But now, this trend has also raised serious concerns about medical safety, regulations, and unrealistic beauty standards, especially after reports of complications and even death linked to cosmetic procedures. The recent death of social media personality Elena Jessica, alongside viral conversations about cosmetic treatments by influencers and celebrities, has intensified this debate even more. So how safe are these procedures, and what should Nigerians and women generally know before considering cosmetic surgery?
To help us understand this broad conversation, that is, of course, BBL, we have Chief Medical Director, Sholema Aesthetic and Laser Clinic, Dr. Osigbeme Awuri, joins us live here in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, I mean, it appears the cosmetic procedures like, BBL and Botox seem to be growing rapidly in Nigeria. Can you tell us what could be driving this high demand?
I think from my point of view, I think it's the era we're living. In fact, we have the social media era. Pop culture in Nigeria has changed, the influences of the Nollywood industry and Afrobeats and all that. So I think that's probably what's driving it, if you were to say, it's just the era in which we're living. We have to attribute some patients or people, successes are related to how they appear. And people are able to monetize this, through various means, social media being one of them.
So, Doctor, just to be clear for those that are watching, including myself, what is the era that we live in right now? Because people would, can tend to debate and say, what's that? Because we've lived in a life where everybody knows beauty, sex sells, and all of that. So it has intensified now and become a broader must-do. It's not anything new, like you've mentioned, right, but it has intensified now. So what is, in your own understanding, the era that we live in now?
Instant gratification.
Right.
Everybody wants instant gratification. Beauty, idea of what beautiful has changed. Mm-hmm. And like I say, people are able to even monetize it with social media now. Right in the palm of your hand, you've got a phone that you can throw videos and pictures, and it's seen by people around the world, and now they can make money from it. And on top of that, I think cost of doing some of these procedures has drastically reduced, especially in a country like Nigeria, as compared to having it done abroad, which was the previous, would have been the case some years and years back. Yes.
So there's a talk about the fact that some of these procedures are, posed to have high risks. Can you tell us which of them is, which is quite safe?
There's no saying that the more invasive you go, the higher the risk and the chances. So in the beginning of the conversation, you talked about Brazilian butt lift. I think it's well known that that's considered to be
the most
risky.
But why is it risky, though?
All the nerves in your bum.
It's more the vessels.
Okay.
So, because with that, the Brazilian butt lift, you're taking fat from one part of the body and transferring it to another part of the body, the behind, the backside. And the backside has some large arteries and veins, and it's quite easy to
Miss.
what we call an embolus. So in other words, you introduce a foreign body, which is the fat. In the course of doing that, introduces into the vessel, and then that can be carried to the heart, the lungs, and cause death.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so that's one of them. I mean, there are other risks with infections, and people get what's called fat necrosis.
Oh, no.
So it's a complicated procedure, but it's usually down to probably the procedure itself,
Right.
the technique, where it's done.
Okay. Doctor, I'm curious to ask you a few questions, but before we do that, let's go on a very quick break, and then when we come back, all the questions and the need to know around looking beautiful through science. Let's go on that quick break. We'll be back. You're welcome back. This is your Sunday edition of Breakfast Extra. Now, before the break, we were having the candid conversations around cosmetic surgeries, invasive, non-invasive. So today we are having the conversations that people don't want to have, and we are joined by a renowned doctor. Doctor, before the break, I asked you a question. In fact, during the break as well, so I'm going to come into this question as well right now, that when we were growing up, non-invasive surgeries, cosmetic surgeries were things or, you know, patterns that we saw so much in the white community. And it always started with a little bit of like a lip filler and a Botox in the chin. But you then now came to find an instance where when the black community began to be aware of this, they now exaggerated it. So that's where now you see the Brazilian butt lifts. That's where you see the fat freezes and all of this. Can you first of all give me an understanding as to why it is a little bit more intensified and heightened and extreme in the black community as opposed to the white community?
I think, in my humble opinion, if you understand what defined beauty in the media, back, dare I say, in the 70s, 80s, the Western Caucasians defined what our standards of what was beautiful, and that carried on to the 80s and 90s, and into the 2000s, we had the era where the blacks started coming out to say, well, beauty standards were different. It moved from just this slender, slim-looking Caucasians who don't naturally have the curvaceousness towards the more curvaceous women. But then towards the 2000s, with again media, and we have celebrities like the Kardashians, the hip hop women, Cardi B's, who then said it wasn't just about being curvaceous, but how the proportions were, a slim waist, and then the curvier backside, and hence, which is more common in the Brazilians who looked exotic. There was this exoticness about the size and how your proportions are: big boobs, slim waist, and the big back sides.
There's a point you made. Please buttress on that point.
Which one?
About how naturally black people do tend to have...
Yeah, I was going to say that because when we were seeing, I remember the movie of Fat Girls back then, where in the movie you could see that they were talking about the fact that black people, we appreciate more of ladies who are on the bigger side as opposed to the white ladies who were seen to be slimmer. But so one would wonder, if we are seeing black people as curvy naturally, how come we have more black people doing things like the Brazilian butt lift, for example?
Again, like I was just trying to say, we want the curves, but we want them in proportions. So what you'll probably find, if you do look at a lot of the before and after pictures, you'll find that most of the women who end up having this probably have the curves in the, what we say, anterior posterior projection. So it's projected backwards. So it's that way, but not necessarily this way. If you go towards the eastern parts of Africa, the southern parts of Africa, you'll find women being a bit more, they have more of the...
Compose yourself.
and less so with the West, and that's just observation. You can, so most women start looking for not just volume, but volume in the right places. So towards the sides and a more rounded.
Now, when we've seen perhaps failed procedures when it comes to cosmetology, people are quick to blame the doctor, blame the hospital. So what should people look out for in determining the clinic or the hospital they should go have this particular surgeries or procedures?
I think it's not just in plastic surgery or aesthetics. In every part of life. When you want to do a procedure, you want to research first who's the person doing it. Do they have the qualifications to carry out this procedure? The environment in which it's done is a huge part of it, you know, because the procedure might go perfectly well, but what about the aftercare? You know, which is just as important, if not more important than the actual procedure itself. Where is it being done? What are the standards? You know, what's the aftercare like? So I think in everything, if you had a heart condition, you want to go see someone who's a reputable cardiologist. You know, so I don't think we're doing enough research around who we go to see, and I mean, you could go see someone and they tell you no. Yeah, it's not suitable, but we want what we want, you know, and then there's always somebody out there who would say yes.
I can do it.
Because of the lure of the finance, you know. So I think there's a responsibility on the patient as well, certainly from the clinician standpoint, to say you're suitable for a procedure or not, and that's where you hold yourself to a higher standard. But there's a responsibility for the patient as well to do their research in who's the person. Is this safe for me to do? And then also to be able to listen to their advice. If they say, well, no, for this reason and this reason, you're not a suitable candidate for this procedure. The risks by far outweigh the benefits. And then to be able to have enough self-love to then listen and say, well, maybe not.
Now, doctor, I'm not sure if we do have the stats of the fatalities in Nigeria with regards to these reconstructive and cosmetic surgeries. But one would care to find out, because of course we know for a while now that the Nigerian healthcare system has been in the headlines for a while now, from infancy to maternity to all these, kind of things. And when we're looking at the complications and the complexities that go into these surgeries, would you say, as a medical doctor, because again, we are using Jessica's case as an example, we saw the video. It was not a beautiful video. Yeah. I'm not sure of the hospital that she was at, because I think the hospital where she actually had first gone for the procedure released a statement and said we had referred her elsewhere. Yeah. So when we're looking at what took place in there, I think the most appalling thing was the fact that someone was recording that video already. And when we speak to the rights of an individual, something like that should not happen. But if we look at where Nigeria is right now from a healthcare standpoint, should Nigeria be doing surgeries like this?
It's a big question. It's a difficult question. I'd say yes. Yes, we should be doing it. But that also, with that yes, means, like you're just saying, standards, We can't all go abroad for, and there are multiple reasons people do procedures. It's not just about aesthetics and wanting to look good.
Right.
People actually have a need, breast enlargement and breast reduction.
Yep.
It's a huge thing because people suffer serious back problems, and and there's a multitude of reasons why people should. So it's not that we shouldn't be doing them. Are we doing them to the standards that are we holding ourselves to a higher standard in whatever we decide to do? So unfortunately, it's the country we live in. Everything could be better. There's a role for government agencies, there's a role for the medical body as a whole and information like this sort of information is helpful to educate the people to demand better standards. And again, obviously there's consequences, and the consequences of doing this. Are there enough consequences for doing things wrong in the country? I'd say we still have a way to go in that regard, because if you knew that it only takes one wrongdoing and the potential for you to lose your license is serious, I think people would then hold themselves to
higher.
There's also the religious side to this whole conversation. That's the fact that some people say, why are you altering your body? Just God has given your body this way. And so for people who perhaps are in between that box, kind of, who want to, they feel like they feel that they have some level of deformation in their own eyes, right? Who want to, find a way to maybe tweak it. What would you tell them? But somehow they're caught in the whole religious web.
I mean, to each his own, I don't think we have a space we're in any position to hold anybody morally as to why you choose to do something to your body or not. Everybody's constantly weighing what's important to them. Mental health is a real thing, and some people suffer severe lack of confidence. And sometimes some of the results, when done properly, whatever the procedure is, can be a major boost to someone's life and their outlook. So I don't think that's a space we should, people have to make decisions for themselves, weighing every factor of their life, whether it be their religion, their mental state, their whatever. It's for people to make individual decisions about themselves,
Right.
and you can extrapolate that into many other facets of life as to why do people fly business class, why do people buy fancy cars? You can extrapolate such things to a wide range. I think it's all down to the individual to make that decision for themselves. What we should be able to do as professionals is give them the information, the proper information,
Right.
and support them through that decision that they make for themselves, so that is the best decision for themselves.
So last year or so, I went for a microblade. I'm waiting for the camera to zoom in on me. Meva, please help me. I went for a microblade, and when I went for a microblade, these lines over here, doctor, my makeup artist was like, she would suggest that I get Botox because these lines would be invisible. So now let's look at those perhaps minor, non-invasive kind of surgeries. If I were to now go ahead and just fill these lines over here, what's, first of all, the benefit, but then also the downside? And I'm saying downside because I've noticed that once one person gets one little injection, you find it becoming a bit more of a constant thing now to, constantly go and get these fillers and these Botox. So can you give me the upside, but also honestly the downside, and when enough should be enough?
Okay, so the benefits right away, like you say, if you're talking about a treatment like botulinum toxin injections, when done properly, they can be significant. In other words, they help with things like lines and wrinkles, which somewhat can make us appear more older than we feel.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when done properly.
Yeah, because I'm not that old, guys. Don't mind the wrinkles. I'm not that old.
When done properly, they can help make your appearance much more youthful. So that's one of the downsides. They, on the other side of it, amongst other downsides, it helps with skin quality when, and things like that. But on the other side of it, you can do too much of everything. Fillers done badly can affect first of all, it's a risky procedure in the wrong hands. You can have serious medical conditions if you, again, block a vessel when you're doing something like fillers. Or if you're doing botulinum toxin and not done properly, you can distort your appearance and drop your eyebrow or drop your eyelid, and you go around for months with uneven face. So again, like everything, in the wrong hands, it's dangerous, or it can have significant downsides. In the right hands, it can be a game changer. It can make you look awake and more alert, more youthful, and everybody could do with being a little bit more youthful. So in terms of botulinum toxin specifically, downsides are minimal. Again, mainly probably more due to the practitioner and who you see. If done improperly, can cause distortions in the facial appearance. But when done well, can give you a nice, youthful, healthy appearance.
Let's talk regulation. How regulated is the cosmetic industry in Nigeria?
There's a lot more that could be done. There's a lot more that we could done, and it's for us as professionals to come together and set that standards. In this government support in that space, to then call together professionals to say, hey, we're having too many untoward outcomes from procedures, whether it be minimal invasive, like where I play, or invasive like the surgeons, and to say, who's practicing? Are we doing our annual checks? Are we checking standards? Are we educating ourselves? Are we improving our procedures? Like obtains abroad, most of them have we have it here, but to what degree? Definitely there's a lot more that can be done in that regard. And it's also for the public too, because there are qualified and very good professionals who can carry out these procedures to the highest of standards in this country. But then there may be a cost implication to that, you know. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of people want to have it the cheap way, you know, and cheap is not always, quite often, to be honest. You get, like you say, generally, you get what you pay for. You know, I think that's a huge part that's not really mentioned. The fact that the more qualified, the
more expensive.
Tend to be a little bit more, or a lot more in some cases, expensive. But then, you know, that's a...
I mean, I agree with you in that we know that cost it speaks a volume, because if Chiwete is going to go and buy a suit now and he knows that he went to Versace and they said that the suit is $10,000, and then you see someone else with it and they say this is $2,000, the first thing is,
maybe being scammed.
You know, the price difference here is not making sense, but it's so unfortunate. Like you said, when it comes to other things that are more life-threatening, we're like, oh, at least I got it cheaper, you know, and we don't consider...
And you'll be amazed what people do. You'll be shocked. I mean, that someone will take themselves for something that's life-threatening to go meet someone who's, you know, not even a plastic surgeon, not a doctor, you know, not even a doctor in some cases. You know, you'll be amazed. You'll be like, what made you go do, what made you, you know, but people just think, is it not this thing, you know, and, you know, some people portray themselves to be doctors where they're not. You know, we have a lot of...
I had one of those experiences.
Are there any misconceptions about, you know, aesthetic procedures, cosmetic surgeries?
Surgeries as a whole?
Yeah. No, of course, cosmetic surgeries. Are there any misconceptions that you think perhaps you just want to clear it out?
Well, misconceptions in the whole aesthetic space would be things like, you know, there are many, depending on which one you're talking, which specialty you're speaking of specifically. In my specialty, many misconceptions that doing these things are bad for you, or that, you know, they can age you, or
just fighting against time.
Fighting, you know, so
this is gonna happen.
You know, that's poisonous. You know, lasers are dangerous. They'll cause cancer. So it's wide, you know, and it shouldn't be, because now you have right there in your palm of your... Well, I guess it's difficult, to be honest. I make it sound like it's easy, reading up. But we don't read. A lot of us don't read enough research, you know. But you can get information out there, and correct information. Again, if you see someone who's professional, then they should be able to give you the right information about whatever the subject matter is.
I do have a question, because again, like you said, we're finding more... what's the word? We're seeing more in our spas and in our daily places where we go, you know, for beauty treatments and stuff, that people are diversifying and introducing so many things. This may not be surgery, but I'm curious, because I wanted to do it at one point and I was afraid. And I think, again, like you said, it was because I didn't necessarily have the right kind of information. There's this new thing, I don't know how new it is, but for me, just a few years now, these vitamin drips. That people will sit and say, I'm going to take this vitamin drip because, again, like you said, rejuvenation and all of that and stuff. There's a lot of stigma in my own mind, and I want to believe that maybe in some of the viewers that are watching as well.
Yes.
Because, of course, like you said, there's always the question on, where do you guys get these things? You know, correct. Can you please just settle my mind with the benefits of these vitamin drips all being put in one, and upside, downside, when to do it, when not to do it as well?
Controversial area, and you know. Vitamin drips, I guess it's really about what is it you're looking for. Why are you doing vitamin drips? The space, especially as practiced in Nigeria, I would say more often than not, the most people who go for it tend to be looking for some form of skin toning, skin lightening, most of the time. There are, not everybody, and there are other reasons. Some people do it for lack of energy, to give you a bit of a boost, you know. But the vast majority do it, especially with things like glutathione, to get their skin a little bit toned and light, which is another pandemic problem we have in Africa, certainly in Nigeria. It's risky, you know. Anytime, again, you see how we're talking about the more what you do, you know, carries the benefits and risks. The benefits, as compared to doing intravenous, some you are putting fluid into your veins. Unfortunately, a lot of places that it's being done, I don't know that they have the expertise to assess the patient's overall health properly. Even if you're just putting fluid, like normal saline, is the patient's heart able to take it? Is there medications they're on? What other medical complications do they have? I mean, you're putting fluid straight into their vessels that go into their system. So I personally am not a huge fan of it. If you must do it for the minimal benefits, being, like I say, if you're having a vitamin cocktail, you're having what we call antioxidants to help you with, and go do it in a proper clinical setting where, God forbid, something goes wrong. They have the expertise to intervene. They can be of some benefit, that's not to say completely, but again, certainly not in every spa, like you begin to see it every Tom, Dick and Harry is that, oh, I do vitamin drips, and they'll put something into your blood vessels,
Aside from the vitamin drips, we see a lot of people who own salons just put it on the side or just come on social media and say, I'm a skincare therapist.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, how can we separate the ones who truly are certified cosmetologists and to just people who just want to make money?
Again, another massive problem we have, unfortunately. Everybody's become a skin expert. Social media has played a part in that, and it seemed to be a quick way to make money with very minimal qualifications. You can some people go for a course online, 2-day, and they say, oh, and then they throw away buzzwords, niacinamide and this and that, and they call themselves skin experts. Again, like I say, the onus is on you who's going to have the procedure or want something done to say, okay, what's your qualification? And anybody who can't stand and give you proper qualifications, whether it be medical, and it doesn't have to be medical, especially in the aesthetic space. Right now in Nigeria, we have very good aesthetic training schools, where you can go and get properly trained. It's not a 2-day, 1-day thing. Usually the courses last months to get some understanding about what aesthetics is and to be able to then recommend products and help people manage their skin. But again, the big part is also know your limits. A lot of people have medical conditions and then they go to somewhat aesthetics to manage their medical conditions, and that shouldn't be. So I think we have to put the responsibility on the patient or the person seeking the help. Please do your research around who is providing this help to you. And that would be my comment. Not to knock anybody's hustle. We're all trying to survive in this.
We need to knock it.
We need to knock it really.
We need to knock it.
Yeah.
We need to knock it because prevention is better than cure. I know that that's what you guys say. We need to knock it. We are out of time on this conversation. I think that's a good one because I definitely was going to go to Ozempic. Let's not go there. Doctor, I'd like to thank you so much for your time and the education.
Thank you.
Guys, you've seen it. Safety first. Do your research. Don't influence sometimes is not the best influence. So all of you that are clickbaiting and have your saved body goals on social media, make sure that you get all the necessary information that you need before deciding to go and make that cut. And like me, those injections, we'll talk about them soon. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you.
We're going to a quick break now, but when we return, more on Breakfast Extra. Stay with us.
Welcome back. It's still Breakfast Extra. The 2027 general elections are now on the horizon, and political activity across the country has begun to intensify, especially in Lagos State, and one of course, Nigeria's most politically significant battlegrounds. Once viewed as a stronghold for the ruling party, recent developments suggest political realignments are underway, with opposition parties and alternative coalitions positioning themselves to challenge the status quo. Now, from grassroots mobilization to strategic alliances, the race for votes in Lagos is becoming more competitive.
Very competitive. So today we ask, are we witnessing a genuine shift in Lagos's political dynamics, or is this simply early posturing ahead of the formal campaign period? And what does this momentum mean for party structures, voters, and the large electoral landscape in Nigeria's commercial nervous center? To help me?
Now, to help unpack these developments, we are joined by Oladeyinde Adekunle, a public affairs analyst, and Olalekan Anjolaya, a chieftain of the African Democratic Congress here in Lagos. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Let me start with you. I'll start with you, Olaliko. What would you say is the situation when it comes to opposition in Lagos? For the longest time, it's been one party, and it looks like they've not shifted, even when they were not aligned with the presidency. As at the time when the presidency was PDP, we still had the APC still holding strong in Lagos. So right now, how would you say, what would your analysis be as regards their position in Lagos?
I think that in 2023 we narrowly missed it. Lagos was ours for the taking. You saw what...
You narrowly missed it?
Yeah, we narrowly missed it. In fact, we got it because they were defeated in the presidential election. You saw what happened. They had to stagger the election to about 2 weeks after, just so they can oppress the Lagosians using thugs and, of course, very brutal forces. Yeah, we have documentaries to that effect, and I'm sure that you are in possession of that. But in 2027, Lagos is positioned for the opposition's taking. And, of course, you can see that even up to our local ward meetings, members are being attacked. The big question is, why is APC jittery, right? From 1999, they have concentrated their own political structure using the NURTW and the Eologias. Guess what? The Eologias today cannot even afford a one-room apartment in Lagos. So all of them have moved towards Songo, which is, of course, outside Lagos, right? You know how much a two-bedroom will cost even in an Egbeda area of Alimosho? It amounts to about 3-4 million. How many Eologia, how many NURTW members can afford that? So right about now, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, Lagos currently houses about 80.84% non-indigent. Living indigent Lagosians with about 19.16%. And of course, they don't know, but of course, we have seen that, right? And while they continue to use very brutal forces, strict sanctions on, of course, markets dominated by non-indigents and, of course, people from other states or other ethnics, we have taken very good opportunity of this, and we are preaching a together agenda. And if you can see, the logo of the ADC is extending handshake to show that you don't have to be Lagosian to be a Nigerian, right? Lagos is home for everybody. Lagos is heterogeneous, and it has been like that since, since inception, right? Lagos was predominantly that of their worries, but of course, Lagosians, core Lagosians, are truly welcoming. Now, this ethnic divide has continued such that, the government in power is now beginning to distinguish who is even, from Lagos and who is Ogun, who is Oshun. It has even left Omoibo or Mausa, It is now about, they are not from Lagos. And my brother, I stand to be corrected. None of them, none of those that have become governor is truly from Lagos.
All right. I'd like to come to Mr. Adekunle. Some reports describe Lagos actually as no longer a guarantee for a stronghold for the ruling party, pointing to, if I can just check my notes, pointing to the rising opposition engagements. How significant is that shift in your own view?
I think we should stop deceiving ourselves. My colleague said they narrowly missed it in 2023 because they want the rigged presidential election. They mostly are among the Igbo-dominated area. We have the record. We are on the field. So saying you narrowly miss it is like not saying the truth. With less than 10,000, let's say 10,000 votes, and then I can give you some indices that make you to won that election, even with the massive rigging of Labour Party then. Massive rigging of Labour Party in so many local government, mostly the non-indigenous Igbo-dominated area.
Sorry, did you say massive rigging?
Massive
from the
rigging.
Labour Party?
Yes, massive rigging in Lagos. What they did in the East, they replicated it in Lagos. Even let's put that aside.
There was rigging in the East for Labour Party.
100%. Where on earth will you get 98% votes for a particular candidate? Among all the 5 states in the East, where?
Your colleague
You
is
see,
smiling.
Where? Even Atiku in Northeast wouldn't get it. Ashwaju in Southwest could not get it. It's on record. It's on video. Now, let's put that aside. A lot of things contributed to what Labour Party got in Lagos that made them to win that presidential election. Why is it that they could not replicate the same effort during the governorship election? We are not talking about rigging. We defeated them with almost 500,000 votes. Almost 500,000 votes. Where is intimidation? Why not intimidate? If Lagos is going to intimidate the Labour, it should be is because during the presidential election, we woke up late. That was the reason we have to intensify efforts to ensure that. And then let me also say this. A lot of factors contributed to that. In the campaign, you will talk about fuel scarcity. You talk about classification of Naira. You talk about this NSAS protest. A lot of youth mind was poisoned against Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But we woke up so late. That was the reason we went back to the field and do the needful that made us to win that election hands down.
Can you give us details as to the needful that was done in terms of what you're talking about? Right?
Mobilization, massive one, massive mobilization, massive. We went to sleep, thinking that the usual thing. We went to sleep. So I will not come here and I've been saying that it was rigging during the governorship election, but it wasn't a rigging during the presidential election. It was massive mobilization. My own organization was part of people who work seriously to ensure we want Lagos Progressive Front. And to me, a lot of factors. We discovered that at the Igbo-dominated area, Yorubas were not allowed to vote. Then let me also say this. If you are talking about indigene and non-indigene, I wanted to believe every southerner, every southwest people are part of Lagos. Yes, it was dominated by Awori. I am from Ekpe. I am a full-fledged Lagosian. But in the southeast, can you allow even a Yoruba to become a councillor in Anambra State? Is it possible? Even you can't be in Anambra State civil service if you are from Imo State. You are from any good state.
Mr. Adekunle.
And they wanted to go. You wanted to discuss that. Wanted to become a governor in Lagos State. It will never happen.
Sorry, if I can just interject now. The Tribune recently reported multiple parties, including the APC, the PDP, the APGA, and others, making early strategic moves. Are we seeing strategic coalitions forming yet, or is this just too early for us to make the call?
I can't get that.
So my question is, again, let me repeat that. The Tribune recently reported multiple parties, not just one, right? And these parties include the APC, the PDP, the APGA, as well as others. And they said that these parties are making early strategic moves. Are we seeing strategic coalitions forming, or is it too early for us to make that call right now?
If I talk about coalition, I don't think APC need to have coalition with any of the party.
Why is that?
Because we have the strength, numerical strength, we have the reach, we have the structure. No party in Nigeria today can boast of 10% of the kind of structure we have in APC.
What kind of structures would you say you have, sir?
We have been there since 2015. We have been winning the election.
Okay, so outside of the fact that you are the longest leading party, in terms of the strategy and the reforms that you guys have, what would you say those are?
Wow.
When we're looking at your strength, other than the numbers, let's
talk about what this governor have done in less than 3 years.
What has he done?
When Bola Ahmed Tinubu became the president, our escrow account balance was $3.3 billion.
Okay.
Today is over $34 billion.
And how much of that budget are we seeing being distributed to the people?
I am coming. You asked me a question. Let me answer.
Go ahead.
In 2023, we have about $35 billion in our GDP, our reserve. But today, we have over 50 billion. When Ashwaju become the president, he has added $67 billion to our GDP, because we had about 272.8 billion, 2.8 billion now, naira. Now it's about 372.4 billion of our GDP. When he became president, he introduced NEL fund, tax reform, local government autonomy. For the first time in the history of Nigeria, the capitalization of stock exchange market reached and crossed 100 trillion. First time in the history of Nigeria. Before the closing of business that day, it has reached 101.4 trillion naira. When Ashwaju became the president and his subsidies are gone, many states could not pay salaries. But today, they are receiving almost 3 times of what they used to receive.
In
a
salaries?
lot of them.
Let
They
me-
could not pay salary. They are receiving in terms of their monthly allocation almost 3 times. But every one of them can now do so many construction, so many infrastructure development in their state. When Ashwaju became
Mr. Aladede, we hear you on this one, but we just need to give some time for our other guests to at least give us some point as regards the fact. I want to ask you a question. We all know the importance of, the presidency, right, in terms of politicking. I mean, right now we have lots of governors who have moved on to the APC. Now, ADC looks like it's a fresh party, even though the faces we see, they are very, very familiar. Are you worried, or do you think that the fact that you don't have that much base up there, it's going to be a problem for you?
Well, I'm not perturbed. In 2023, just in response to what Mr. Oladeyinde was saying, Labour Party was even a third force. And Lagos is the foundation of the All Progressive Congress. His allegation of Labour Party rigging an election as a third force, Labour Party did not even have what it takes to rig the election. They had the commissioner of police, they had everything, they had money, they had everything to throw around. But Lagosians said no, they were rejected, right? And I'm not saying this thing, I'm not just forming my statement. Documentaries are evident across Lagos that APC lost grip and lost Lagos. He was talking about predominantly Yoruba, predominantly Igbo areas. Is it Tiosa predominantly Igbo area where we have the Obaniko Roads, the Elegushi? They lost. Even in front of their house, they lost. Do you understand? So, you see, the APC are selective about what they want to hear and what they want to understand. And I think that they are delusional. They are not in touch with the constant realities of this country. That's why you can give us figures about billions and billions. They removed, their first job was to remove subsidy on everything. They removed subsidy on health, subsidy on education, subsidy on petrol, on everything. We thought they were saving. Today, healthcare is not affordable. This same Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if he went to school, must have gone to must have benefited from free education, right? But today, you understand, you know how much it costs to even enroll in Unilag. Before they came in, it was just 8,000 naira. You understand? About now, it's over 100,000. Now, what is NEL fund? Did Ashwaju get NEL fund when he was going to school? There was this principle of Obafemi Awolowo, you understand, constantly advocating for free education. And that is what has liberated the Southwest, or the South, so to say, right, from other regions. Many of the leaders that are there today, those in their 60s, those in their 70s, they benefited from free education. The question I want to ask you, what is your benefit as a Nigerian? I challenge him to tell me his number is from Ekpe. He has a family, he has Nigerian children. What is your benefit as a Nigerian child in this country? None. If you go to other countries of the world, there are benefits, right? In fact, I stand to be corrected. Indigenous citizens of Canada, of US, either they pay no tuition up until higher education, or they pay very, 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 very minimal, right? There are child support for people that perhaps are pregnant and cannot work. This is the only country, no support. If you go to Brazil, childbirth is free. Even if you are a foreigner, you can go to Brazil and have your child. Same with Mexico. We are Nigerians. This government owes us no 1 naira. The only thing we can see them rub on our face is distributing of rice. You can see the shenanigans in Imo State with the city boys gathering. You see, let me tell you something about those governors. Nigerians are not deceived, right? I'm a political scientist, right? You see, the people that participate in the process of this politicking are about 10% of the population, right? You see, the workforce, those that go to work every day, those that don't have no business with politics, but on that day they will cast their ballot. They won't vote for APC because they know how brutal, how difficult the economic realities are today. So my distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I mean, it's 2027 is very near, you know, to judge, you know, they will see their own political scorecard. I just pray and I beg them to take thuggery, violence away from Lagos politics. Because see, there's no monopoly to it. And when the time comes, the community will stand for itself, right? And when it stands for itself, they would have no control over it. They will have absolutely no control over it. He spoke about NSAS. Oh, have we forgotten so soon what instigated NSAS? NSAS was a pure, non-violent agitation to stop police brutality. What was government's response to it? They went there to kill people, to maim people.
All right.
And there was no response up until now.
I'd like for us to interject because I want us to get through all of these questions. And I know that Mr. Adekunle does have a response. But as you give that response, Lagos is diversifying, actually. And it is a very diverse urban electorate with shifting demographics. And the shift is more so in the younger voters. To what extent do you think these social changes are influencing political strategies, especially piggybacking off of what our good gentleman said about the fact that what is the benefit of young Nigerians in Nigeria, especially in Lagos State, because that's where the inflow is coming from? If you can help me answer.
Just thank you very much. Let me respond to what he said about NSAS. Another thing he talks about. There was a massacre at Lekki Toll Gate. A massacre without something of evidential value. Till tomorrow, nobody has come out and say, oh, I love my lost one, my friend. Not even single one. So let's leave
Wait, I don't understand. You're saying till today nobody made a
nobody. If you can give me, you are a journalist, please, after this time out, give me evidence of those people that were killed. A lot of them that were killed, that are mentioned on social media then, all of them is selected.
Are you saying the bullets that we saw that were being shot at
were fake?
Were they fake? Were they?
You have to provide the body.
No. So what I'm saying,
the
sir,
people,
we saw
the family.
Okay, hold on. Apologies, because you want us to get on this NSAS protest.
Yes.
The things that took place there, the gunshots that we heard, because if you remember,
I'm not saying they are not gunshots.
Apologies.
You're talking about massacre.
So what I'm
and nothing
saying,
happened to it. I'm asking you question. Give me the family, friend of the victim. After, if there is a massacre, there must be victims.
Some people.
So let me leave at that. I'm expecting that police fact check me and bring it out. The family who are claiming that they lost their loved one.
Yeah.
That is how it is done all over the world. Let's leave it at that. APC that wanted to dislodge, APC that wanted to dislodge APC. Can you imagine? They just finished their registration recently, about 2 days ago. They could not muster 1 million registration. Yes, I agree with you. Those who are in politics is just about 10% of 240 million Nigerians, which is about 24 million. They could not muster 1 million. And most of these people you will see from being registered as APC, you will see so many names in their register. And they are coming here to tell me that, in 2027, they are going to dislodge the APC. Do you think those who are decamping or defecting to APC, they must have their reason why they are decamping and defecting? Because Mr. President has performed beyond expectation. You will not see it. You are working, like Douala said recently, as an opposition, you will never say anything good about the real government. You will never say it. I am not surprised about that. I'm not surprised about that you are saying nothing is happening. Even if you see it, some people are so blind that they cannot see good thing about this present government.
So sorry,
but let me tell you,
please.
He has done so much in every area of man endeavor. Is it? In the area of education?
Apologies, sir, because we do not have time. The problem is we are very limited by time, but please enlighten me, especially because you went to the interview with Mr. Douala. Can you list, in your own capacity, some of the good things that Nigerians can boldly beat their chest and say, in the time of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, these are the good things that we got from his rule? I have
mentioned before you stop me. If you want me to go ahead, I'll go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Net fund is there. Tax reform is there. Coastal Road is there. Badagry Sokoto Road is there.
No, but these are
credit copy is there.
The things that you are mentioning. Sorry, sir. The things that you are mentioning.
This government introduced reduced dialysis from 60,000 per session to 12,000 per session. You will not see that. This government is handling chemotography for the cancer. He reduced the cost. You will not see anything. It was not beneficiary. The students who could not go to school before now are all returned to school.
No, that's not true.
Not only return to school.
That's not true.
We have a lot of students.
We have 18 million children as of today that are not in school. 18 million that are not in school. And again, based on the interview that you have mentioned, 141 million people in Nigeria as of today. In fact, even that number is botched because based on the documentary that we had, based on the documentary as well that we had yesterday, declassified, even that number is not the actual number. But based on the statistics that we know that have been recorded, we don't know about the unrecorded, 141 million Nigerians as of today are living in poverty. 141 million.
Can I respond to that? You see that when he started this reform in 2023 by saying subsidy is gone. There was so much pain in 2024 and some part of 2025. But today, everything is improving. It's becoming gains. Because I used to say it whenever I appear on any program. I said the pace of today will be the gains of tomorrow. This is a man that has just used only 2 years and 10 months in office and is going for the second time. The problem of Nigeria can never be solved overnight. It cannot be solved for that. These are problems that have been there for years. You can't expect to solve every problem. Nowhere in the world that a president of one time will solve all the problems overnight.
Permit me to butt in, and that's because we need to save time. But let me come to you now, Olalekan. Looking at the people who are being paraded in the ADC, it's almost looking like we're having something that happened with the APC in 2015. What do I mean? You're seeing familiar faces in politics come together to form an opposition. Is that really a breath of fresh air for Nigerians? Because in the ADC, we have people who even supported Asiwaju at some point, talking about El Rufai and the likes. We have people who were together in the APC at some point. Now they've moved to the ADC. What fresh ideas could we be getting from the ADC?
Well, there's a mix of it. While we have people that have once been a member of the APC, we have very strong opposition figures that have never been in the APC, in person of someone like Peter Obi. Now, some persons worked with, General Buhari and Yemi Osinbajo.
Yes.
But they've chosen to stay away from this government. People like Babatunde Raji Fashola, people like Kayode Fayemi, people like Professor Yemi Osinbajo, they've stayed away because they know that nothing good will come out of an Asiwaju presidency. You see, the truth is that, just like I said, they are selective about what they want to hear and what they want to believe. I challenged my colleague on this show. He said we're able to muster just 1 million registration.
Not up to 1 million.
Not up to 1 million. How do you just come up and put up frictions? This is a registration that, as I speak with you, is still ongoing. We have registered millions because Peter Obi came into this fold. Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola came into this fold. Atiku Abubakar came into this fold. These are people. In 2023, Peter Obi had about 6.1 million votes. Atiku Abubakar had 6.9 million votes, right? And a fraction of APC, El Rufai, Abubakar Mala, even though they are being politically prosecuted now, he's asking me, he's saying that, governors are jumping because they see what Ashwaju is doing fantastic thing. No, governors are joining for their selfish reasons because they don't want to be probed after government, right? And those that said no, those that decided to say, no, we are not going to support you, they are in jail. They are in Kuje prison. You understand? And where is Oji Uzo Kalu? Where is Yaya Bello? That we had EFCC displayed evidence of corruption. It's protected by Ashwaju. Of course, we do not expect anything less, right? But you see, the ADC, right about now, for them, we are focused. We are registering our members. On the night, we are going to start our World Congress. You understand? 2 days after, we are going to go to LGA Congress, State Congress. On the 14th, we're having our national convention. We are not perturbed. Even though the system is designed to make Nigeria a one-party state, to stifle the opposition. Look at how they destroyed PDP. Look at how they destroyed Labour Party. But ADC is going to survive. ADC will send them out of Aso Rock. ADC will send them out of Alausa. And I make bold to say, right, we just want a fair game. Let Lagosians, let Nigerians have the freedom that was guaranteed by the 1999 Constitution for them to exercise their franchise, and they will see their political scorecard.
I won't respond to that because, to me, I believe mostly we have intention to discuss Lagos State governorship on this program, while we focus on the federal government. I'm not surprised concerning the corruption cases that's ongoing. I believe still a member of APC today. A lot of APC members are still in court today being prosecuted. I don't want to disturb, but ask any PDP member or ask any ADC member that what are they going to do differently. They will not be able to see anything. I don't want to talk about Obi because Obi has his time as governor of Anambra State. Where is his scorecard? What is the landmark of any of the projects that is landmark in Anambra State? We are Obi commissioners. We are Obi SA. I don't want to go into that, but to me, before we finish this program, I think maybe you can have a few minutes to talk about Lagos State government.
We're about wrapping things up, actually, as a matter of fact. But thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show and for having this conversation with us. We're going to go on a quick break. When we return, there's more. Stay with us.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We all know where there are political conversations, the atmosphere and the moods are always going to be high. So let's bring it down a little bit, but still in the political reports, Nigeria's main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, is once again facing internal challenges ahead of the 2027 general elections. The party has been grappling with internal divisions, high-profile defections, and leadership disagreements that many analysts say could affect its strength and as well as the opposition force. Now, recent developments have also seen party elders and leaders calling for reconciliation among fueling factions, while a court has urged the party to resolve its internal disputes and move towards unity.
Indeed, Inam, with the political landscape already beginning to shift ahead of the next election cycle, questions are being asked about the People's Democratic Party's readiness to reposition itself and provide a strong alternative in Nigeria's democracy. Can the party overcome its internal divisions, rebuild trust among its members, and regain political momentum before 2027? That's a big question. To discuss this, we are joined by Judge Turner, South-South Zonal Secretary of the PDP. Of course, Mr. Judge Turner, thank you so much for joining us. I would address you, what I addressed you as before, perhaps, is what it was before. But right now, congratulations, you were elected the chairman for PDP Bayelsa. Congratulations on that. How do you feel about that win, by the way?
Thank you. Well, I feel good. You know, the joy that comes with that kind of endorsement, knowing that your people believe that you have something you can offer, and when you're entrusted with leadership, especially in times like this, when commitment integrity, loyalty, and everything that is required to keep a party that is being battered every now and then by opposition forces, opposition here now is not external, but internal opposition. And so it requires people who are able to stand firm and, of course, have the kind of characteristics to say A in the morning, and it stands through the test of afternoon and to the evening and then to night, and it remains A. So I feel good that my people have found me worthy, and of course, to entrust this mandate on our shoulders. We are grateful.
Congratulations again, George Turner. But I'd like for us to get into the current situation right now. How serious are the internal challenges facing the PDP at this current present?
Not to pretend about it, the internal challenges we have is quite troubling, especially that we are headed for the 2027 general elections. Now, I like to make a little a distinction between PDP being troubled as a party, and then PDP having internal problems, which is normal in politics. But the party itself is a very big and large, family with people from diverse, interests and people with, and then this interest will conflict at some point. But the ability to sit down, negotiate, discuss, disagree to agree, and then emerge, a united and strong platform to now confront the external forces out there. And then win elections. Because the aim of every political party is to be able to win elections. And if you are not together, it is difficult. History has shown from 2015 to 2023, PDP's challenge has been that of internal, disagreement that we are not able to resolve them, before elections. So you say he's the best teacher. As we approach 2027, it will not be in our best interest to not be able to resolve our differences. Now, legally speaking, the courts have rested what should have been a major crisis for the PDP. Now there's a clear leadership, there's a responsive and a responsible leadership. INEC is clear now about who they deal with, what authority they relate with in respect, and regards to the management of the affairs of the PDP as a party. So that is a given, which means that we have no issues about PDP being on the ballot. We have no issues about clarity as to who signs what form, who nominates what form, who sends what form to INEC. All of that is taken care of. And we are headed for our convention on the 29th and 30th. We should be able to elect new sets of NWC members that will now carry us into the 2027 politics properly. However, there's a need to reconcile. We don't have any alternative. So through reconciliation, reconciliation must be founded, in truth and sincerity. Like I will always say, those who love the party, this is the time now to demonstrate that love. Because as it is today, we have no legal impediments, we have no encumbrances at all on our will-be candidates. There are candidates, anyone who is on the PDP ticket will have no worries as to if should I win elections today, what happens tomorrow? We don't have any of those. But if crisis progresses to Supreme Court, nobody can predict, though the law remains the law, and we are confident that it will not be different, because it is always very difficult for the Supreme Court to deviate when two lower courts, the Court of Appeal and the trial court, have made findings of fact. It is almost always very difficult, except there is travesty of justice, that the Supreme Court cannot deviate. You know, but
Mr. Turner, permit me to butt in here.
It is important. It's important
permit me to butt in here.
Because law is only. Can you hear me?
In here, but I want us to just move on to this quite interesting question, and that's the fact that the party has witnessed quite a large number of defections. In 2019, you had about 16 states being controlled by the PDP. Now you're looking at 3 to 4. What can you say, or what do you think is driving these departures of, of governors mostly moving to the other side?
Okay, so first of all, politics is largely dependent on interest. And for me, just like salvation, interest is personal. So you really cannot determine for the next person what his interest or what aligns with his interest at a particular time. So when people make political moves, I am sure it is as a result of some level of calculations, and then weighing options and interests and all of that put together. But the point to note is that the power, resides with the people. It's the people who govern us. So when governors defect, they defect based on their own convictions. That does not mean that the party have lost its base. I can tell you, the PDP's strength is largely concentrated at the grassroots. Our successes lie with the people down there. So what happens is, I give you a clear example. A party can have 20 governors today, going to elections, general elections, and comes out with 10 governors. So what happens to the other 10? The people have made their choice. Some states, you have a political party have been in power for almost 20 years, and then they go into an election, they think it is business as usual, and then they are dislodged by some other party. So it's really not about the governors, but it's about the people. I give you South-South, for instance. South-South remains a dominantly, PDP region. The PDP is home in South-South. But we have our governors that have now made South-South an APC region, not by the mandate of the people, not through the ballot, but South-South is now APC via defection of governors. So there's a difference. PDP by the mandate of the people expressed through the ballot, and now APC by defection of governors. So it's still clearly. And when the time comes, because some of these defections happen without consultation, some of these defections happen with our people expressing a lot of emotions, and if I'll give you again another instance. The PDP as a party have done so much for, let's say, Bayelsa. So in Bayelsa, we even say the PDP is a job party. I mean, clearly, the PDP is a job party. So you find a situation where the sentiment around our people, this party gave us, the platform. We produced a president, not just a vice president. He became an acting president. He became president. We were given an opportunity of Nigerians to express their acceptance
Mr.
of
George Turner,
our father and our son through the ballot, and that happened.
Mr. George Turner.
There's really little you can tell our people about PDP.
Yes. Mr. George Turner,
you have to convince them otherwise.
Apologies if I can just interject, because we are unfortunately out of time, but I'd like to hear from you just in 30 seconds, please. When we talk about the strength of the PDP right now, some political as well as, just general observers argue that the internal divisions have weakened the PDP's ability to function as a strong opposition. Do you agree with this assessment? 30 seconds, please.
No, I agree, because to the extent that in politics, for you to win, you need to be together. That's what I've said. Now, if at the end of the day, we are not able to reconcile properly, it weakens our collective chances. Assuming we're expected to have a 90% success in the next general election, that can be affected to say 70%. So look at it. It weakens our chances, and it is not good for us. That's why we are saying that what sacrifice is too big to make for whoever loves this party. Let me just come the leadership of Mohammed Abdurrahman, who as of today is the legitimate and legally recognized governing authority, the National Caretaker Committee, led by Abdurrahman Mohammed. So if you love this party, what is difficult? These guys have between now and the 29th, to manage the party, and then we have a convention. So stop anybody who wants to aspire into the next WC, to do so at the convention. So
Mr.
we
Turner.
kill this party.
All right, Mr. Turner.
And
Mr. Turner.
those of us, they accuse us of being the ones attempting
Turner,
to kill the party. We are still here.
Mr. Turner,
Working
just
for this
before
party.
we let you go, Mr. Turner, what message would you like to send to especially PDP supporters who may be concerned about the party's internal conflict?
Yes, conversations are ongoing. Our leaders are working tirelessly day and night. At our level as young people, we're also engaging, myself and Inni. Remember, we have done a lot, and I think tomorrow we are meeting again, to fine-tune and ensure that coming from the young people perspective that we also have, so party members across the country should keep hope alive, for joy is coming.
Awesome. Love that. Thank you so much, Mr. George Turner, for sharing your perspective on these developments within the PDP. We all know that as political activities gradually build towards the 2027 elections, the strength and stability of opposition parties will remain an important part of Nigeria's democratic process. And of course, how the PDP navigates its internal disputes in the coming months could play a key role in shaping the political landscape ahead. That's our conversation for and towards the PDP. Stay with us for more right here on Breakfast Extra.
Welcome back. It's still Breakfast Extra, coasting, of course, down to where we'll wrap up the show. But before we end the show this week, we need to talk about something pretty interesting and important. Now, Thursday, the 12th of this month, marked World Kidney Day, a global campaign aimed at raising awareness about kidney health and the importance of preventing kidney disease. Now, the theme this year is caring for people, protecting the planet. It highlights the connection between human health and environmental sustainability.
Now, kidney disease is often described as a silent condition, with millions of people around the world living with the illness without knowing. Now, joining us is Dr. Titilope Macfadden-Laja, a physician and health insurance advocate. Dr. Titilope, thank you so much for joining us. Now, let's begin with awareness. How common is kidney disease in Nigeria?
Thank you so much for having me. So kidney disease is very common, and we say that about 1 in every 7 Nigerians actually has a kidney disease. It is so common, but yet so silent, because it doesn't show on the face, and a lot of times it is until the symptoms begin to show, that's when people then tell that, oh, I actually have a kidney disease. But it's really common, and it's rather better to prevent it before it even happens.
How do we prevent it? I think let's just shoot straight into it. How do we prevent it?
Okay, because we know kidney disease is actually very expensive to maintain. So the regular simple things like drinking water. We say drink at least 3 liters of water. That's like the 75 cl of bottle, that's like 6 of that. Some people say 2 liters, but I mean, just to be on the safe side, especially here in Nigeria where we have the current heat tension going on, everybody can attest to the fact that the weather is very hot. It's better to preserve yourself by taking at least 3 liters of water daily. And then, of course, reduce salt intake. There's some people that eat food and then still add additional salt. You don't need that salt, because when you overload your food with salt, then you're getting your kidneys to work extra hard. So you need to actually reduce your salt intake, take more water, and of course, reduce self-medications. We know in Nigeria, people just walk into any chemist, any local drugstore to say, they diagnose themselves. They just tell, in fact, they tell the patent seller, the patent drug seller, I already know what is wrong with me. Just give me this concoction of medications, which is wrong. That way you are causing your kidneys to overwork. And there's a level to which the kidneys is expected to work per day. So when you use these medications without prescription, then you're overloading the kidneys. The other important thing to note is this herbal concussion. If there's any parts of the world that takes this a lot, I'm sure when you go on the street, you see somebody hawking it. Somebody is selling something, and you don't even know what is in that mix. But people are buying it and taking it. And because the kidney is important, the kidney is responsible for excreting every toxin, taking out every excess. And so you're loading it with so much concoction, you don't even know the content. So we need to reduce, or if possible, actually avoid taking herbal concoction, except supplements and medications that are prescribed by the doctors. And of course, that will be given to you after tests are properly done.
Now I hear you when you say kidney diseases are referred to as silent killers. And I also believe that that's because the signs are not there till it gets to a point where it's quite serious.
Exactly.
How often should people test their kidneys?
Okay, beautiful. I want to take you back to why we call the kidney silent killers a silent killer, because truly the symptoms do not show until you begin to have, until it turns to a chronic state, or something we call maybe an acute on chronic disease. And one of the two important diseases that actually damage the kidneys are the commonest in Nigeria, or even in Africa generally, hypertension and diabetes. So what do you need to actually test? Check your blood pressure, check your blood sugar. Because once the blood pressure is really high, you're going to overwork the kidneys. A very high, hypertension, that's high blood pressure, reduces the flow of blood to the kidneys. It means that the kidney is not getting enough blood. And that means that the kidney itself will not be able to function properly. It means that the kidney itself will not be able to take out excess water from the body. And at that point, you begin to see people with swollen legs, swollen feet. I'm sure you must have seen things like that. When you then press such a feet, we call it pitting. It shows that there's fluid retention. That's already a late sign of kidney disease. So you want to ensure that your blood pressure is properly checked. And how often should you check your blood pressure? At least once a month. And then if you are sure that you're fine, you do not have a high blood pressure, then you can check once in 3 months. But with the stress level in Nigeria, I'll just recommend check once a month just to be sure. The other day, I was having headache, and I actually went to check on a relative. She was complaining about headache. Meanwhile, I too had the headache. I just said, okay, let me check your blood pressure for you. Hers was fine. Can you believe that when I checked mine was a bit elevated, and I had to say, okay, I've always known that I never had high blood pressure, but now I have to check more regularly. And then in the space of 1 month, I had to check it like every week. So I'll recommend we check it every month, just to be sure that you do not have high blood pressure. Because once you begin to have it, then it leads directly to affect the kidney, and that's what we call hypertensive nephropathy. The other one is the blood sugar. Just the same way the blood pressure affects the kidneys, that's the same way the blood sugar affects the kidneys. So I'll say check your blood sugar to at least once a month, just to be sure you do not have any of these diseases. And of course, there are other tests you can do. There are other urine tests. In fact, the most minute and simplest test you can do is your urine test. We call it urinalysis, urine analysis. Just drop a urine sample in a diagnostic center, in a lab, or in a hospital. Go to the hospital so that you're told the right kind of test to do. Of course, just that's as simple as that urine test is. Somebody sees a strip is dipped into a container, you just look at it. It tells you a lot. Once somebody might see protein, these are things that should not even be in your urine. These things, once detected, can pick early diagnosis. And so there are other tests after the urine test is done. You can do a blood kidney function test. That one tells you the level of electrolytes. For instance, we're talking about salt, that you should reduce salt intake. Once you have high sodium, it's related to your salt intake. So you just want to ensure that you're checking these things at least. The blood pressure, the blood sugar, those ones should be checked at least once every month. And then the other urine test, blood test, you can do that at least once in 6 months or once a year.
Doctor, I'm quite surprised that when you mentioned salt, and then of course you mentioned your low intake of water. Many a times people tend to also categorize alcohol intake to affecting.
I was going to get there. I was surprised you didn't mention that as well.
Okay. Yes. So of course, two important things: alcohol intake and smoking. I was going to get there, but because this water and salt are like the simplest basic things that we should ensure we control. Maybe I took it for granted that alcohol and smoking are already for a given. People know that you should avoid that. In the past, we used to say that a bottle of, a cup, actually a glass of red wine was good for the heart. But it has been proven that it is no longer good. You don't even need that red wine anymore to take care of your heart. Water is all you need. And that's because, I mean, if your heart is impacted, then your kidney is impacted. If your heart is not functioning well, then blood is not pumping well to your kidneys, and this automatically leads to kidney failure. The same thing happens to smoking. Smoking damages the lungs, impacts your heart. So it's a whole system happening around the respiratory tract and then the cardiovascular organ. So once there's a damage to all of this, there's blood pressure increase, and of course, it goes down to the kidneys. So those ones should even be avoided totally.
Now, let's talk about of course, the cure now for those who unfortunately have issues with their kidneys. The dialysis is one thing that we always talk about, and at this present time, we have the government claim that they've reduced the price for dialysis. Can you confirm how expensive or how affordable dialysis is right now in Nigeria?
Especially because our former, he said 12,000.
He said 12,000. So that's, how affordable is dialysis right now?
Yes, so I will say in the government hospitals, yes, it is as affordable as 15,000 naira, but that is per session. And then it depends on which government hospitals. But you would agree with me that there is a queue. In Nigeria, we have a problem with access to healthcare. And that's why I say that aside being a medical doctor, I'm also a health insurance advocate, because access to care is one major problem in Nigeria, and we are nowhere near achieving universal health coverage. Now we've moved it to Vision 2030.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we've been moving this over and again. It used to be Vision 2020. As of today, we only have 10% of Nigerians covered. So out of 210 million or 200 million.
Is that what you, 10%?
Yes, that are covered with health insurance. So it means that every other person still has to depend solely on what is available and pay out of pocket. So when you go to the government hospitals, of course, there's a queue. And you truly might not have a date anytime soon. So that's where the problem is. And even if you're saying 15,000 naira per session, a regular dialysis should be done at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Ooh.
So, and this is something, especially when it's a chronic disease, it's going to last for a lifetime. So how long or how much will these people keep paying out of pocket? So that's where the problem is. And if you don't want to join the queues at the government hospitals, because I mean, sometimes the hospitals are even on strike. I mean, a major strike was called off recently. So at what point you would still have to be at the mercies of the government. But when you then go to the private hospitals, it's truly very expensive. It used to be in the range of 30 to 35,000, but now we are saying, and an average, and I'm not saying even the very high-end hospitals, is ranging from 70,000, 50,000 to 70,000 per session.
Is this due to,
in a week?
Is this due to imports, or what is the reason for that hike?
Of course, so we can look at every other thing. The inflation, there's medical inflation. Last year we had about 34% or something was medical inflation, aside the economic inflation. Now with the cost of diesel, in fact, with the cost, every time I hear an increase in fuel and diesel, I think of healthcare, because you have to run dialysis machines 24 hours.
With or without
there has to be electricity for those things to work. So how do, and a lot of hospitals are even on the Band A system. So they have to pay heavily for power. And then, of course, you look at the medications. Once there's any inflation, it affects the prices of those medications. You know, we were talking about blood the other time. There also has to be available blood for anybody that is going into transplant, going in for dialysis. So there's just a lot that goes into it. And, of course, manpower. So the costs and you need the nephrologists. So how many nephrologists do we even have available? So access and availability is actually a major problem. And so the cost of dialysis will definitely keep going up, except yes, when subsidized by the government. But I hope that subsidy also impacts or goes round even to the private hospitals.
Okay, so my producer told me to ask a question, and I'm doing this for you, Collins, honestly.
Okay.
We're going to circle back to the smoking conversation.
Oh, okay.
Because some people say these things too, and I hear where they say, okay, I'm not necessarily smoking cigarettes, I'm not smoking, marijuana and the likes, but I'm just cool with my vaping and my shisha. Are those also harmful to the kidneys?
Yes, they are. And we're going to get back to the theme of this world's Kidney Day. It talks about environmental sustainability. So what exactly are you smoking in that shisha? It's some form of toxin or the other. Even if it is not nicotine, there's some form of toxin you're taking. And for me, I don't know if it's the pleasure of what you're taking, but maybe you just...
that plenty smoke.
If you want the plenty smoke, then maybe you get a nebulizer. I mean, get a nebulizer for someone.
That's quite serious.
Yeah, look at a case of an asthmatic patient. When somebody is being nebulized, at that time when he's taking something in, to go help clear his airway. But you are just taking something for the fun of it. And those things are actually harming you because they are going straight in. Anything you're taking in, it looks like smoke, but it's going straight into your lungs, and it's definitely going to affect your lungs and then give a feedback because it's going to reduce the oxygen level of your lungs. And then, of course, the body needs oxygen. The heart needs oxygen. So there's just a feedback mechanism to the entire system. So you're affecting your body all because of how many minutes of pleasure.
Let's talk about, sorry, just to cut you, sorry, I apologize for cutting you actually.
Fine.
Let's look at the ability for kidney transplants in Nigeria. What the statistics, where are we when it comes to that?
Unfortunately, we still have a long way to go when it comes to kidney transplants. There are not so many centers doing it right now in Nigeria. Yes, I know there are a few in Lagos, and I won't mention names, but we have one of the top hospitals here in Lagos that has done repeated successful kidney transplants. And we also have some very notable ones also in Abuja, that have done that. But you and I know that kidney transplant is very expensive. Aside the fact that you're going to have a transplant, you're also looking for a donor. So before you can even get a donor, there has to be a queue. And then we're talking about the fact that nobody is selling it. You're looking for a compatible donor. So it takes a long while, and people are on these long queues. I know a lot of people travel out of the country, but when you look at the cost, it's still very high. So we still have a very long way to go. And of course, the cost of having a kidney transplant done is very high. After the transplant, how do you also maintain the lifestyle is another thing to talk about. I know a very dear family that had a kidney transplant done. Prior to that, the man was on dialysis every week. But shortly after the transplant was done, I mean, because of the medications you still have to use, and somehow it is the body seeing itself trying to fight certain antigens because there's something, these kidneys were never for you, and then the body is trying to accept this. In that process, there's some form of immunosuppression. So the body tries to fight and then also tries to keep this. And somewhere along the line, because of the reactions even to the medications, the man lost his life shortly after the kidney transplant. So that it's even better not to even get there. We should be looking at prevention, and we should be looking at access to healthcare. And I'm going to also say that I preach health insurance because when you do not think of having to pay out of pocket to run some of these tests, then you will take your health more seriously. But every time people think, oh, before I go to the hospital, I have to calculate how much do I even have in my account to even see a consultant right now. So why don't you just pay for health insurance? Because the cost of seeing a doctor right now today can actually get you a whole 1 year of health insurance. And that way you can continue to prevent and check yourself before this disease is even coming.
Doctor, thank you so much for your time, first of all, for the work that you're doing, and of course for just educating ourselves and our viewers regarding World Kidney Day. So you've heard it here that prevention always better than cure. Drink your water, cut the alcohol, and no to the shisha. Collins, let's go on a quick break, and when we come back, we wrap it up here on Breakfast Extra. Do stay with us.
All right, just before we wrap up, of course, let's get straight to Weekend Warriors. Now, some athletes compete for medals, right? And then some compete for meaning, the kind that, stretches far beyond the stage lights. Now, Andrew Jacked, Nigerian professional bodybuilder, has just made a big win. Now, at the 2026 Arnold Classic, one of the most prestigious bodybuilding competitions in the world, the Nigerian star stood tall among the world's elite and walked away with a staggering $750,000 prize. Now, rewriting what global recognition can look like for African bodybuilders, that's exactly what Andrew did. But Andrew Jacked's story did not begin under bright international light. It began in the quiet discipline of a young Nigerian man who believed that greatness could be sculpted, literally, yeah, that's it, through patience, pain, and relentless consistency. In a sport where genetics may open the door, but discipline keeps it open, Andrew carved his path through countless hours of training, sacrifice, and unwavering focus.
Now, bodybuilding is often misunderstood. Many see the finished product, the sculpted muscles, that six-pack, ladies, what I'm talking about, that confident stage presence and the applause of the judges. But behind every pose is a life defined by routine. Early mornings, strict nutrition, exhausting workouts, and years of quiet commitment and rarely making headlines. Now, Andrew Jacked embraced that grind long before the world noticed, from social media training clips that first caught the attention of global bodybuilding enthusiasts to competing on some of the biggest stages in the sports. His rise has been nothing short of remarkable. With each competition, he proved that talent from Nigeria could stand shoulder to shoulder with the best of physiques in the world. And now, standing victorious at the Arnold Classic, a competition founded by bodybuilding legend Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, Andrew Jacked has done more than win prize money. He has expanded the global conversation about where bodybuilding excellence can come from.
Now, for Nigeria, the significance goes beyond the sport. The country known globally for its music, film, and football, Andrew Jacked's victory opens another door. Strength, discipline, and determination are universal currencies, and Andrew has shown that Nigerian athletes can cash them anywhere in the world. Now, his victory also shines a light on a growing fitness culture across Africa. More young Nigerians are embracing strength training, health awareness, and competitive bodybuilding. And in that movement, Andrew Jacked now stands as a symbol of proof that a dream built in a local gym can one day echo across a global stage.
It's a fact that greatness is often built in silence before it is celebrated in the public. Discipline can transform ambition into achievements, and the world's biggest stages are never out of reach for those that are willing to work and outwork doubt. Andrew Jacked lifted a flag, inspired a generation, and reminded us that strength is not just measured in muscle, but in perseverance. Chiwete.
Yeah.
You're quite toned yourself, so we see the discipline and the...
I don't think I want to get up to being Andrew Jacked's level, if you ask me honestly, because it takes a lot. I'm not sure I want to get to that point. That's too much. I think as I am like this, I feel like I'm ready to get to a point where okay, come on, slow down a bit.
He's toned, right?
So let me just keep it at this level. But to get to Andrew Jacked's level now, I'm not. Even though the money is a lot, I'll just nah.
But to each his own. Some like them big and built, some like them toned, and some like them as skinny as a twig. So that's all that we have for you on Breakfast Extra today. Till next time.
Yeah, but remember though, tomorrow, of course, remember to join Johansson, Benga, and Olive on Breakfast Central. Starts by 7 a.m. So from us here on Breakfast Extra, my name is Chiwete Onyema.
And my name is Inam Maso. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.